Hi, Miranda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the Sustainable Act podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Of course.
I'm so excited for this interview, for getting a chance to just chat with you and also learn more about your journey and have others learn more about what you do and who you are. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is just so you know, my first podcast ever. So
yeah.
We're making it. We're doing it.
I love it.
Honestly, it's even wild that you asked me to come because I feel like last Climate Summit we met in person for the first time. And this one, it's just through the power of Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. We've just gotten closer, which has been so nice.
It's the power of community.
Yes.
And that's a big theme throughout the interviews done this week. It's just everybody that I've met in one way or another, through the Hollywood Climate Summit or just being here in LA or being in this community. And now it's as we move forward in our careers, you've managed to do quite a bit in the last year that I've known you, which so I'm excited to really get into that and learn more. But it's really cool seeing all the different things that you've achieved and have accomplished in the 1 year, and I know there's more to come. I know as you move forward, we're gonna keep cheering you on. So let's just get right into it. Let's start by if you can introduce yourself to, say, someone that has just met you for the first time. How would you describe what you do, and who is Miranda?
In and outside of work, I'm an environmentalist. So hi, Miranda, passionate environmentalist always. But outside of work, I'm honestly just someone who freaking loves the ocean and someone who really enjoys being in nature. But I really love making just impacts wherever I go, regardless if it's at work or just in person. So me, Miranda, I'm a passionate environmentalist, lover of film, lover of the ocean, always down to go get a coffee with someone, love meeting people, love interacting with people.
Yeah, big on connection.
Big,
community.
Yeah. Networking's my number one, and not even networking work networking, but networking building community, making friends. It's wild to have only been in LA for 2 years and feel I have this whole hugs worth of people around me. It's so nice.
That's so special and so refreshing to hear, because I feel a lot of what I hear about LA is the opposite, that when people come into LA they feel more detached from people or more isolated, even though the population here is crazy. I'm pretty sure the California population is it's higher than all of Canada. So that's wild, but it's really cool to hear that you have found a community of people that you...
Yeah, and it's honestly because of the intersection of sustainability and film. Most of the people I've met, it's been through this kind of space of sustainability X film. And it's been very, very cool to get a part of, and just always surprised by how welcoming everyone is in this space. So very thankful.
So where is home? Where were you before you moved to LA?
Yeah, so I lived in Florida.
So you went coast to coast?
I went coast to coast, yeah. I was born in Louisiana, moved to Florida when I was 5, and then stayed there way too long. Went to school there, studied environmental science and oceanic conservation, and ended up getting my master's degree. But then lived in Gainesville while I was at school, but grew up in Jacksonville, Florida.
Nice. So what made the switch or sort of transition to want to move to LA? Was it film, or because you studied environmental science? How did that happen? How did you get in film, or even LA? Yeah,
so it started out that I wanted to become a veterinarian. And so I was applying to a lot of just schools to go do undergrad in veterinary school. Gainesville has a great vet program, but then applied to UC Davis, which I think has the #1 vet program right now. If not, it's #2. And then I really started getting into the idea of moving to California after applying there, because I got in and I was like, oh, California could actually be an opportunity. I've always wanted to try out the West Coast. Living on the East Coast for so long, it's so humid there. My asthma hates the East Coast. So moving to the West Coast was like very intriguing. But I ended up getting a full ride to UF. So I had to take it. And then ever since then.
UF is it University of Florida?
University of Florida. Yeah. Okay. Go Gators. Yeah. University of Florida. And so stayed there, was only supposed to be there for like 4 years, and then moved to California. Knew I was going to always make it to the West Coast. Didn't necessarily know it was going to be LA though. Basically my partner and I were like, we're going to move to the West Coast / we might move to New York. So,
so like the East or West.
The East or West, but
the world
just somewhere not Florida.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And so we kind of just both applied to jobs in like New York, Chicago, Seattle, LA.
Yeah.
And then whoever got the job first,
right,
that's where we go. Oh. And so I got the job first, so I won. And I got a job in marine science biotech, basically, which I thought was going to be like my dream job. Got here, did it for like 5 months, absolutely hated it. Like it was the worst. And
was that like the job itself or the company, or like what made it such a bad experience?
Yeah, it was it was a startup, so I knew going into it that like this was like going to be a risk, and I think I just didn't vibe with the people that I was working with as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
And like the drive was a lot, and the work I was doing was not necessarily always what I felt like the work that I was told I was going to be doing. And so it was just like a lot of things compiling.
It's just not a good fit.
Yeah. And I basically ended up deciding I'm just going to quit and try to find something else.
That was in LA?
Yeah, it was in LA. So we moved here and did that job for 5 months. And then I was like, I actually cannot go back to this job ever again.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, I am going to do what they always tell you not to do, which is quit without a plan. And I was like, I'm just going to quit. And
I think I did that. So.
I mean, it's actually a good thing to do.
Like, you're only young once.
Yeah. I don't recommend it for like every situation you're in. But like, if it's like,
if you have like an idea of what you want, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not that serious.
I found a way to do sustainability on set, basically. And I was doing that a little bit here and there while still working at this other place. And I ultimately was just like, went to the Hollywood Climate Summit, honestly, 2 years ago. It was virtual that time. And I was like, I actually think I could do this. I just like need to find an in. And so I was just like, I'm just going to quit and network my way into it and see what happens, because they always say too that like Hollywood's like who you know. And I was like, I'm just going to make it my mission to know a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And it landed me like a job working in sustainability on set, implementing all the stuff I learned in school about nature and everything. And I was interested in film because I love watching movies in general. And so, yeah, just one thing led to another and ended up getting that job. Before getting like the job directly on set though, I became a sustainability data coordinator, technically was like my job title, and started working with sustainability data. Had a lot of like transferable skills from working in data for like research. And yeah, and the rest is history. Now I'm just doing it.
So you like never left. So like you came to LA. Like I feel like what it sounds like it was you were meant to be here, and somehow you know even though the first job didn't work out, that like story of like, well, whichever place we get like an offer to is where what we're gonna call home. Not that like it would have to be permanent. Like you can always move again. But,
right.
That's really cool that you ended up in LA. Was LA your first choice, or did you have like sort of a top like I hope I get to
I wanted LA or New York City. I knew I would love both. I think I will like LA more, but I do want to try New York City out at least once someday.
It's a very different vibe, right?
Yeah, like, it's a very different vibe. I've heard New York's a lot harder to live in.
Yeah.
And like the I like the idea of New York because, again, so many people, so many things, so much stuff happening. I think it'll be a big transition for me, though, if I ever do move there, not driving and taking basically permanently public transportation, or like an Uber or something like that, and not having my own car. That'll be a big change, just because in Florida you drive a lot. LA, if you don't have a car, I don't know how you get around, honestly, because it's just our public transportation. It's getting better, but it's not great. And so that'll be the biggest transition. But I honestly would love it because public transportation, I wish we had it more.
It's funny that you say that, because in Vancouver, we have, I would say, good public transportation to a point where it's like, it is reliable and it can get you to the main city centers and wherever you need. It could be better. I've been in Toronto and it's way, way more elevated and accessible and just a lot more options I don't know if have you been to Canada?
No, so I've never left this country and I need to. Yeah. So maybe I'll come visit.
I haven't explored much of the US, so that's why I always refer to the Canadian cities, the more bigger metro cities. Quebec is also, I've only been there once, but also way better than Vancouver public transit. But I come into LA and it's you're right, there's no public nothing I'll see buses here and there, but
it's nothing
if you want to get somewhere, you have to plan a couple hours, or that could be a 20-minute walk or drive. The thing is it's funny that I'm sure because you're so used to a certain lifestyle of I have my own independence or driving, I feel once you make that adjustment, it'll be easy because it'll be easier to public transit than drive, which is the case in Vancouver. A lot of times it's easier to just take transit because it'll take the same time, or if not less time, to get somewhere. And then the thing that I would have expected to hear as a hard adjustment, I think would have been the weather change, because it's so extremely different than what you're used to in Florida and LA.
Yes. Yeah. The weather, but I think I would invite that in, because I don't feel I've ever actually experienced a real season change. Living in Florida, it just goes from very hot one day to just freezing cold. 40 degrees Fahrenheit. No clue what that is in Celsius.
That is in Celsius. Oh, you Americans.
But
this is so. It's anytime I talk to American friends, I'm I literally
have no clue what you're
I'm
talking about.
it's just I don't know how to calculate the difference.
Slightly cold, not freezing yet.
Degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so it's 10 degrees above freezing.
Okay. Oh, that is cold. I didn't think Florida got that cold.
It can. So it depends on what the weather's doing, always, and how close you are to the coast.
Right.
So that'll be. But yeah, it gets that cold.
But New York goes below, in the negatives.
In the negatives, yeah.
In Celsius, it can go down to -30, which I'm sure it's I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I could not tell you.
I didn't need to figure out some way to do it in my head. But yeah, but I would invite that, because to have a true fall, a true autumn would be amazing. I would love that, actually. Yeah. But yeah, I've always considered, would I move or have a temporary home in New York City and just experience it. Yeah. It would be actually ideal if I could live 6 months in LA, 6 months in New York. Yeah. But maybe one day. We'll see. We'll see.
You're gonna make it. You have an apartment here and then Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. I haven't been to New York yet, and I had planned a trip for this summer to go, and then I ended up getting another opportunity, which ended up on the same day. So I'm gonna have to push my New York trip a bit, but it's been a dream of mine to go since I was a kid. Yeah. And just experience New York. One day it'll happen. Have you been?
So I went for my 18th birthday, I want to say. It was either 18th, 19th, something in there. And I went with my mom, and it was the best time. I'm a big musical gal. So Broadway perfect. Was we stayed in Times Square, which I think to a lot of people sounds like a nightmare. Yeah. But for me idolizing New York City was great, honestly.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect then. Yeah. That's really, really great to hear. I want to go back to you starting your career, working in the film industry, combining your environmental background. And I am so curious to know, as somebody that has a environmental science background and like very strong focus, how was that adjustment to applying those skills and knowledge? Because I'm sure like you were bringing a lot more knowledge than like, I also worked on set, but I have a film background. And so with sustainability stuff, like I was learning as I go, but there's a lot of things I'm like, this is basic common sense that we should be applying in terms of like lowering our carbon emissions.
Yeah.
I feel like as someone that has had education in this and like a lot of knowledge, how did you find you were able to apply those, that knowledge and those skills into your work, and balancing that with others that don't have that same sort of like background but are like leading sustainability in film? How do you balance that? How has it been like for you? That like, has it been challenges or has it been quite easy like transition?
So it's been a little bit of both, just because I came into the film industry basically having no idea how films are made. Fell in love with the process though, so I like feel like I know how film, like I don't know everything that everyone does still yet, and I need to like get more onto that. But I came in with this idea that I knew, like I could tell how much impact making a film has on just the environment, nature, emissions, etc. And I just knew that I would want to take the knowledge that I have and kind of give that new perspective, like you were saying. So I've met a lot of people who have a background in film working, to do sustainability on film with a film background, not necessarily an environmental background. But there's also a lot of people, I will say, that have both. And I admire them greatly, because it would have been very cool to start knowing what the heck I was doing. But I think what going into it without this film background has helped me do is come in not knowing anything and not knowing, like, basically what you hear a lot is like, well, we've always done it this way. It's always like, it's business as usual. So like, why are you trying to change it? And like, to me, I don't know what business as usual is. To me, I don't get actually why we do it this way, because this way is like super unsustainable and we could do it this way. And I feel like it doesn't affect anything, or if anything, it like can maybe make something cheaper, easier, like less stressful, something like that. And so I think going into it without as much of a film background as a lot of people have when they're on set, I was able to give a perspective of like, okay, if I'm coming into this super naive, have no clue what y'all are talking about, but I know the science of it and I know the nature of it and I know the impact of it. Let me tell you what the impact you're having, and let me tell you about the solution, and then how does this affect your operations? I was able to come in, I think, without having a clue of like what the operations are, but be able to say, but this is what the nature of it is. This is what the emissions reduction of it is. How can we make this work for you doing whatever it is you're doing? And so like a great example I like to use, like LED lights. It's like just a kind of a throwaway example of like, does using LED lights really change too much for you? And like for me, I have no idea. I know that like, what is it, the tungsten lights, like they are like a lot more like vibrant and like provide a very specific look. But learning from like gaffers and electricians and stuff like that on set, like why you need to use like a tungsten light here and not an LED light. And like I was able to just kind of figure out how to apply sustainability and then work it into the film set, as opposed to coming in with that like preconceived notions and like all of these things that people are saying like, well, I have to do it this way because of this. It's like, well, yeah, let's explain to me why, because I have no clue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. I love that approach, because not only are you learning about other people on set, like their roles and like how they work, they're learning how to start integrating these changes and implementing new ways of working. And it's not like, I think that's the approach I always took when I worked in film as well. Like I had a somewhat of a good understanding of how films are made, but like to an extent with like how gaffers work, or how like dolly operators work, or like very specific roles that I think when you come into it with a respect for someone's job, and not I don't care, and like you have to change the way you work, and like you're not listening, and you're kind of like I think then there's more resistance as well. And so like I love what you're saying, because I can resonate with like my own experience trying to implement change in a time where it was very much foreign to people that had been doing things a certain way, and now it's becoming more common. But when you come from it with a specific approach where you're like, let's work together, you tell me what would work for you, and I'll tell you what I think may be better in terms of sustainability, and let's like collaborate.
Yeah, and it's like, that's one of the things I love about filmmaking so much now, is that like I know how collaborative of an experience it is. Before I got into film, it felt very like the director just does everything and everyone's just there to listen to them. But on the sets, at least I've been on, it has been such a collaborative effort. And when I actually get to collaborate, like sit at crafty or sit at catering and like actually have like a heart-to-heart conversation with our gaffer, our like lead electrician or whatever, whoever it is, it was so nice to hear like even what they're already doing that's sustainable, and then just ways that they could leverage me being on set to like push that through, maybe even to the production office, or push that through even just like as an initiative itself, that like maybe I didn't even think of because of that. And it was a very inspiring thing to be able to see what people are already doing on set that's sustainable, and be a person who can amplify it. Because it's kind of like the way like, you know, intimacy coordinators are coming about. Like it was a way for like actors to have that support and that advocation that like they may not have without. And like I hope that I was able to like make something happen by me being on set that wouldn't have been able to happen if I wasn't there.
It's great because you're empowering people to then go and like, you know, create change in a way that will work for them, but also so they continue taking that with them on every single production. Like I know, like from my own experience, that was always my goal, because we know that we're only going to be working together for a short time, like maybe 6 months max, to create that long-lasting impact. How can people start evolving their practices so that they continue, even if I'm not working with them on the next show, or they don't have a sustainability coordinator or somebody that they can like, you know, look to. You just start implementing in a way that's sustainable, play on words. It sounds like you take that approach, and I think that's so important for people to hear, because we're starting to see this culture shift with more and more sustainability coordinators or consultants, or like there's so many different names being thrown around now, being hired, and it can get quickly like very much this check the box mentality now, because sustainability is a cool thing to do, or it's, you know, you need to look sustainable, and it can get blurry with, are you really making an impact, and how our coordinators or whoever, you know, leading sustainability on set, are they being equipped with skills or being empowered to go ahead and help bring change into a production? Have you had any negative experiences being on a production where, you know, you're there trying to create sort of change, or trying to, you know, lead new practices? Have you had any negative experiences, whether it's with crew or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, you get the typical, at least I've gotten the typical of like, I don't understand why this matters, etc., etc. Like, one of my biggest passions is waste. It's always been about waste, whether it's like about how like, you know, waste affects the oceans, or how it affects us and our health, or nature, and like biodiversity. Waste has always been something that I really care about. And so on set, a big part of my job would be ensuring that like waste gets sorted properly, which, even though not like the biggest impact you can have on a set, that's like proper waste management, still important. And it's like a very visual way for people to tell that like something sustainable is happening. And so you get a lot of like people throwing stuff into the wrong bin on purpose and like, see, it doesn't matter, it all goes to the same place, so like da, 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 da. And it's like, you know, that's always like frustrating, but ultimately I'm also there to make sure that that waste is managed properly, and so will be what it is. But yeah, I mean, a lot of my negative experiences have just been about budget, about things being expensive or being perceived as being expensive, or more work or additional work or whatever it might be that maybe gets a little bit of pushback. But I don't think I've never had anything that proper communication and like saying you're sorry and fixing it and not letting it happen again hasn't ever remedied. And I think just like going into those situations, understanding like this is something very new for people and not something that like people necessarily signed up to do additionally. Like when you're in this like very business as usual mindset, I think it's easy to have someone come in who like, again, has no like idea what sustainability or like what filmmaking is, like be like, okay, but this is like the more sustainable thing to do, and it be like $1,000 more or something like that than you're used to spending or than you were planning on spending. And yeah, it's a lot of it's just been like budget, people not really understanding the impact that you can make by doing things more sustainably, and just the need for more communication between the sustainability team and the other people on set, about why it's important and like why we're switching to these practices.
Yeah. I'm curious to know if you, like, what would you tell like as advice or to like a person that's interested in sort of working on set in a role that you've had where you get to come into a production and sort of like help foster and lead these like sustainable practices, and so someone aspiring to do that, what advice, or someone that even is doing that but you know is looking for better advice or to continue doing that work, what advice would you share with them that maybe you took from your own experience? Or
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go back to the communication part of this for this question, just because I think one of the things I actually could have done a lot better is not been afraid of asking a lot more questions and like being just a lot more around for things. So I think communication in this field is very important, and like constantly learning something new. I think I could have done a lot better learning about what everything is on set and how I could kind of weave myself into it, as opposed to like kind of staying in the corner trying to stay out of the way. I think I could have done a lot better about like getting more into it, asking more questions, like really talking to like, when I could, head of departments or other people in the department that maybe had a little bit more time than like HODs would have, and really asking the hard questions of like, why, like what's the issue here with this initiative? Could we figure something out that works better with this production or works better with you or like your team? Really just communication, and for the getting into it part, also the networking, the communication of it all, so important. Talking to people that are doing the job that you want to be doing and figuring out how they got here, what questions they asked, what answers they got. Those are very important parts of just being in film in general, but also being in sustainability. Sustainability is basically being built right now in front of us. Like, we're building it, and all the sustainability teams at all of these like bigger companies, smaller companies, production companies, etc. Like, we're basically like building the framework of it, and so learning from each other, communicating with each other, passing ideas back and forth. Like, I think all of those things are very important, and getting into that mindset of always being ready to collaborate with someone else is like a very great place to start.
Thank you for that. Yeah. That's really great advice. A lot of like nuggets of wisdom in there, and I feel like that's a really good transition into my next sort of like question and focus of this conversation is, you know, you started Sustainably Managed, which is an amazing page full of resources, beautiful artwork. I think your friend Jill that you co-founded this initiative like platform with. I would love to learn more about how that came to be, what it is for those that aren't familiar with Sustainably Managed. It I feel like has a lot of those like key themes and messages that you're just talking about right now about community and collaboration weave through it. But yeah, can you explain what Sustainably Managed is and then how it came to be?
So I actually started Sustainably Managed while I was still living in Gainesville. But I tried it out for a little bit. Work got really busy. School got really busy. Getting like master's degree, all that kind of stuff. Got really busy and has ended up stopped doing it. And when I actually quit my like biotech job, I was like, well, I have all this time and I am like networking and stuff like that, applying for jobs, etc. But like I have all this time that I can be doing something with somebody else and like basically wanting to partner with my best friend Jill. We've been friends now for 23 years. We met when we were in first grade and we've been best friends ever since. And so, you know, she was like living in Florida. I was living, was she living? I don't know if she was living in Florida necessarily yet, but she was living in Florida maybe. I was living in LA and I was just like, we should like do this thing because she was like an aspiring graphic designer. I like have all this knowledge about sustainability and was like wanting to do it on set and wanting to like do it in corporate sustainability. And I was like, why not we just like pair them together? You make really cute graphics about the knowledge that I have, and she also has a great background in like research. So like a lot of the like static posts we make, she like has done significant research on, made them look cute. It's this whole thing. And so yeah, like basically January of 2023 I think is like when we considered when we really started it. We just started making consistent graphics and videos and things like that, and we started on Instagram and just like kind of was like, let's try it, let's do it, let's see what happens. And now it's like we meet, we talk on the phone probably like 3 or 4 times a week for like hours at a time. So like not just talking about Sustainably Managed, but it does like, we do have at least one meeting every week / every month-ish, so that we like really talk about like what are we gonna make, how are we gonna make it, like what's your week looking like making content. And basically the whole vibe of Sustainably Managed is just us trying to share our knowledge and love for graphic design and the environment and sustainability and how people can put that into their everyday lives, how we put it in our everyday lives, and just build a community around this idea that like everybody can make a difference as a singular person. Because once you add that together with like a community and you add a bunch of people's little tiny efforts together, it like makes this giant effort. And we just hope that we just continue spreading that and like making people aware about what they could be doing.
I feel like the way that you and Jill have been communicating knowledge and information and just tips and resources, it's so effective, it's fun, it's light. You know, I've been like, I know I share a lot of your posts, but I've seen others share posts that are by Sustainably Managed, and I'm like, I recognize that, I recognize the designs. So I feel like it's such a cool concept to like, how do you make knowledge accessible, how like, you know, and also like your whole thing about the impact multiplying. But also I think for a lot of people that care but aren't exactly like working in the climate space or have a background in climate, it's like you can, the way that you're putting out content, I feel like is reaching, I'm sure, I know you should talk more about that, but from what I guess like a consumer of it or you know, a follower, it sounds like it's reaching a lot of people that may not already be in that little community or in that little, we've had that a bit with the Sustainable Act as well, where people reached out that aren't really connected in the climate space, but like value that we put out content that's accessible and easy and doesn't shame people. And like, I think that's what Sustainably Managed does a really good job in.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, we like the idea of, because, you know, we were trying to figure out like who's going to be our audience, who's going to be the people that we're trying to reach. And we did like want to target people that like already in the space, have knowledge on it, and like reinforce the fact that like all of these things that you've learned, they're true, and here's a cute graphic to explain why, and like here's what we can do about it. But also reaching, and it's actually why we wanted to move from not just Instagram, but like now we're on LinkedIn, Pinterest, and TikTok. And we wanted to just try to reach as many people as we could from as many walks of life as possible, because when I got into like the corporate sustainability side of things, I realized how many people actually want to be on the corporate sustainability side of things. How many people like have maybe a business job or, you know, some kind of random tech job, and they're like, how can I apply this to climate? How can I get into more of a climate space and like the industry of like climate, sustainability, etc. And that's like actually one of the things we've been pushing a little bit more is like how people can like make every job a climate job. It's like something that's very close to me, because when I first started working in like marine science is very climate adjacent, if not like climate specific job, but like I wasn't necessarily working on like climate change or like emissions or like even waste reduction. I was working on like the actual science biology of it all, and like didn't realize how many like transferable skills you have moving into like corporate sustainability from a space of like hard science, biology, that kind of a thing. And so we just really want to like make it clear to everybody that even if you aren't working directly, even in your 9 to 5 in sustainability, you have a way of being involved in sustainability, and you never know how being involved in sustainability or climate or science or anything can pivot you into this space. And it's something like we really want people to know.
I love that. I think that's so important to understand, but also like sort of have that like that mindset. And I'm curious with like, you know, you talking a little bit about how you meet regularly to talk about like what kind of topics you want to cover. So curious to learn a little bit more of the process behind deciding what to like talk about, because you guys do a really good job by, you know, sharing about like holidays and things that like even I didn't know existed, and I get to learn a lot. But I know there is also like there's so much out there. So like how do you pick and choose what to share about or what, you know, to focus on?
I'll start by saying Jill and I made a pact with each other when we first started that Sustainably Managed was always going to be something fun. If it was ever not fun, we either had to go find the fun or we got to let it go. That's been our thing the whole time, because it's a passion project. We're doing it like largely without great benefit to us besides like, you know, the networking, connection, community part of it, like very little financial gain that you get from just like making a platform from scratch, and just like slowly but surely growing it. And so it was always about the fun. And I think when we first started, we were trying to figure out like how do we make content that's engaging for people, but like also it still says something. And basically we just decided to go with what we cared about and what we thought was like valuable to us and what we wish other people were making. And so nowadays we kind of just land on trying to figure out what holidays are happening, what like very specific like environmental or like intersectional environmental adjacent etc like things were happening. So like, you know, for World Wildlife Day we went to the zoo, or I went to the zoo and brought some friends along, got to see a lot of wildlife etc. And then we pair that with our love of nature and our love of wildlife and biodiversity. We have a series right now that Jill does that's called like the Keystone Species series, where we like highlight keystone species, and we typically will pair like keystone species with like a day. So like I think the other day was World Otter Day, and so we made a World Otter Day post, that kind of a thing. And then for me, my biggest thing for our TikTok has been, because I typically manage like the whatever on TikTok, and Jill will do like the Instagram of it. But I wanted it to be focused on like videos that are focused on me doing my everyday thing. And because I am such a sustainability focused person in and outside of work, it actually just like kind of comes very naturally. And I just love telling people what I'm doing, how they can do it, and love hearing back from people like how hearing what I did was helpful for them and how they're not doing that too.
Yeah, I love that because you're leading by example, and I feel like that is also a very effective strategy to inspire more people to then, you know, implement those changes, because when they see someone like if it looks easy enough, right?
Yeah.
It's like you're not aspiring to be like the complete like zero waste, like whatever, like something really hard and crazy that actually drives more people away than inviting them into the conversation or feel like they can be part of that change. I think there's a lot of power to that. I'm curious, like, do you have like a notable like highlight or moment that you felt, you know, from having sustainably managed, whether that's like a, you know, a direct sort of like I don't know, like an achievement or a story or somebody that reached out, like any highlight that you have that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think for me, for sure, my biggest highlight that we've made so far is our sustainability data analyst guide. So becoming a sustainability data analyst, it's a guide basically on like a step-by-step process of like learning everything you need to know to basically apply to be a sustainability data analyst slash get into the sustainability data world. And the number of people who have gone through that guide and like reached out either through DM or through comments being like, I use this guide and now I have a job at sustainability data, where before I was like doing like another data analysis that like, you know, maybe was like more business related or tech related. Like I said, like doing that pivot and like seeing that is actually like very helpful for people has been really great. Jill makes also great stuff about like wildlife. So many people say that they've learned so much more about animals and nature and wildlife through her posts, and she makes very great, like very well researched posts on like recycling and all the different ways you can take the things that are in your everyday life and like what you can do with them if like say you either don't want them anymore or you want to repurpose them. She makes such good graphics. They always look so good. Such good things that I think people have like been able to like save and reference, and that's been really valuable to both of us, is like people being able to go back and remember that we made this thing, and then they go and reference it and use it to either improve their life or to do something that prevents something from going into the landfill. Great.
Yeah, that's huge. And like, thank you for all that you and Jill are doing for bringing information out there, making it accessible, making it fun. And I know so much time goes into that, and like resources that you're using your own of. Like, we know that from producing this podcast. I totally get you when it comes to like that limited financial support, but you're out there, you're doing it. So I just want to extend my appreciation for you know, all the time and energy you're putting into that like page and community.
Yeah, thank you. Same goes to you. And
thank you. Yeah, what does the future look like for Sustainably Managed? Like, do you have this long-term vision, or what, like, you know, how do you see it like going forward? Actually,
as like kind of an inspiration from the sustainability data analyst guide, we actually did start kind of making it into like a light consultancy. Haven't had like clients per se, like not many that we could like, you know, get a lot of financial support from, but we have now put like an official thing on our link tree, if I think it's maybe in like the description or whatever of this, but that we want to try to use what we've learned making Sustainably Managed and make it into a consultancy at some point. Not sure when, not sure how, like when in the future it's going to be, to kind of help people with like sustainability, social media, like management or design, and job search kind of consultancy services. So at some point we'd like it to go there, but as of right now, we just kind of want to keep sharing the stuff that we're doing. It's been honestly like a joy watching how Jill has grown as a graphic designer from like when we very first started Sustainably Managed to now. And so I think honestly just getting better at like her improving her design, me improving my like video production. It's like one of the things also that got me into film was like having to make TikToks and like everything that goes into like shooting a TikTok, doing the voiceover, editing it, posting it, like keeping track of it. We want to just keep improving those skills as time goes on and just see kind of where it comes.
And I think it's so cool to see your journey, sort of like where it started and like where it is now, with the intersection of like media and creating stuff, but still very much involved with the sustainability side and environmental like sort of communication. And like it's really cool to see how your path has evolved. So thank you so much for sharing. This has been such an enlightening conversation, so inspiring. I've been so like I feel very energized and like refreshed talking to you, and I feel like there's so many great key takeaways that I hope people also feel that they can take away a lot of lessons and wisdom that you have shared today. Is there anything else you'd like to add for, you know, your journey that you'd share with others?
I think I'm just going to reiterate that I think talking to people and connecting with people is really, really, really important. And being an extrovert, will say, so much easier for me to do than someone who is introverted. Fully appreciate that. And like one of my favorite things about myself is that I can really hang and like talk to people very easily, and it also energizes me. Like this conversation has been great, and it's been so great getting to talk to you about all these things. But getting to a place where you can like build a community, talk to people, connect, continuously learn about how things work, and continually add to your knowledge of like the environment, sustainability, the things that you're passionate about, can only make you a better person and a better steward for the earth. And I think it's easy to get kind of stuck in the details of it all, but just having the notion that I heard someone say this the other day, and I'm just gonna like reiterate it. Nothing's happening to you, stuff is happening for you. And so just keep learning and growing and being you as authentically as possible, and things will just work out.
I love that, Miranda. Thank you for sharing that. I just made my heart so warm. No, I fully agree. And so like, and thank you for being you and for showing up and, you know, all the things that you do. And I know that you'll continue to do. Like, I'm cheering you on for the sidelines.
Appreciate it.
I do want to end with a fun little segment called, so we only started calling this Green Takes like 2 days ago, and we're sticking with it unless you have better names, because we haven't thought of a better name. But it's like hot takes, but green.
But green? Okay, yeah, I love it.
It's probably lame, but
no, I love it.
Open to suggestions. Okay, so what are your top 3? Okay, I wrote 3, but it could be however many. Favorite places in Los Angeles to connect with nature, and why?
Gonna start out with my girl, the Griffith Observatory. I love her.
We were just there this morning.
She's my favorite. I love her. I love that you can see the city. You can see Griffith Park. You can go inside and learn about space. It's honestly the perfect place to go for me anytime, but especially at sunset. It's the best. I love going there. I love going to Malibu beaches, especially Point Dume. Love that place. And I love going to this place called the Venice Learning Garden. We've been actually going there as like me and my like little group of friends have been going there to celebrate Earth Day the last couple of years, and it's actually been such a great experience. Like really like, put my hands on the ground and like go into the earth, see the roly-polies and the worms. It's been great. So those are my top 3.
I love it. Okay, amazing. If you could create a fun and engaging sustainability challenge for your followers, what would it be, and how would you motivate them to take part?
Okay, so I did think about this one. So I would love to one day do a challenge where I have people go, and the challenge is go to the beach, find the most absurd thing you possibly can find, send a picture. Whoever has the most absurd thing we take on like an all expenses paid scuba diving trip. Because I feel like I love the ocean. Being in the ocean is one of my favorite things. And I feel like one of the things that's hard for some people being in the ocean is like not realizing how like actually insane and wild the ocean is, and like the creatures that live within the ocean. And I feel like it would motivate people more to like go clean up the beach if like they knew that like the reward of it would be getting to actually see the animals and the habitat that they're working to protect. So you go, you find the most absurd thing possible, and then you keep cleaning until you find an even more absurd thing. And whoever gets the most absurd thing, like by my judgment, I guess, we're gonna go scuba diving.
Okay, so is this like a future sustainably managed
like,
challenge?
I'm like concocting this right
now.
Oh
my gosh,
this is gonna be a thing.
We're gonna put this out there. I'm gonna hold you accountable because I would love a free scuba diving trip.
Find the most absurd thing.
Yeah, I'm on it. Okay, so you work in film. You're also helping save the planet. How do you when we talk about like resting and recovering and all that? I'm so curious, do you have like a favorite guilty pleasure like movie or a TV show that you like watching?
Yeah.
That may be unrelated to saving the world.
So it is technically, but I will say it's the most cliche thing about me is my favorite movie is La La Land. I can watch La La Land all day long. And so I'm going to call it a guilty pleasure just because I know that everyone in LA is cringing right now that is A, my favorite movie, and B, that I love it so much and it's like a guilty, like...
I wouldn't say that. I think it's fine to have, like, that's the point of having your free favorite show.
I could watch that movie
Who cares what people
over
think?
and over and over again.
Yeah.
But
is that why Griffith Observatory is your favorite? Like,
it's one of the reasons. It's actually how I knew the Griffith Observatory existed, because like I knew nothing about LA before I lived here. And then I was like, oh, I want to go there, and then I went there, and I was like, oh,
just like romanticizing
it all the way through. That's like the La La Land way, you know. But I also love Bluey. Can I just say?
Ursula was actually talking about Bluey the other day and was like, have you watched Bluey? And I'm like, yeah, I don't watch cartoons, but like that's a show that I will sit and like. Okay, fun fact.
Yeah.
I learned that Bluey is a really good show for your dog to watch.
Yes, because it's in the colors of your, your dog can see.
So I was like, I have to like test this out. And I was like, let me put it on for my dog. And she was focused for a bit. But my dog doesn't like look at screens. She's like, love that for her. But I kid you not, I sat through like 3 episodes because I'm like, this is so good. And like the way they're writing it, it's so like, what's the word? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like hidden, like sort of like just kind of sprinkled into like the little messages or the way that the conversation. I'm like, adults can understand this.
Yeah, it's a very smart show. Subtle. Yes.
Like it's for kids, but I'm like, this is so funny. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Tell me. Yeah.
No, that's okay. No, I love Bluey. It's heartwarming. It's funny. It's short. So like I don't have to like sit and like watch an hour of something or even like 30 minutes or something. It's like 8 minutes. I just sit with these cutie little dogs and the kids that voices are so cute. But and
the stories are so like clever.
They are.
I'm like, oh, this is really well done.
Team Bluey.
It makes me think. Like, Bluey is such a good show, but I almost think, like, it'd be fun to go back and watch a lot of the cartoons I grew up with to see, like, now what I would understand. That as a kid, you're not focusing on the subtle things.
Yeah. I feel like that with a lot of, like, Disney movies. Disney movies are the same way for me.
I also love La La Land. And I like, so we're here. Ursula's here. Ursula's behind the camera. I've been talking about it the whole time. We're in LA. I'm like, we have to go here because it's in La La Land. Like, and like it is a beautiful film. Like I would say like just as somebody who also has like a favorite film that is a controversial film, who cares what people think? If it makes you happy, then that's what matters.
That's what matters.
Yeah, and everybody has that, and there's always gonna be people that are like, ew, or yeah. And I'm sure they will have a film that they love that is. You know,
it's like, why?
Yeah, we'd be like, what? Okay, that was a good answer. You got like a TV show and a film. Okay, next question. What is one item that you can't live without?
Okay, I thought about this one too because I was like, whenever anyone asks me this question, I make it way too deep, and I'm like, oh, like air or like food,
Yeah.
but it's actually
Really? You can't live without air or food? Shocker, Miranda. I can't. No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
But
I didn't think of it that way when I wrote this question.
No, it's a good question. I just think of it way too literally.
Yeah.
But so I was like, okay, if we take away the actual life necessities,
Yeah.
it's actually my VHS player. So
Wow.
I'm really big into vintage collection or like collecting, which is just like to say
Vintage, because that was wait, can I ask how old you are? We can.
yeah. No, I'm 28.
Okay, so that is our time.
Yeah.
You mean vintage?
Yeah. Like,
I grew
but
up
by vintage, I more mean like things that people don't really make anymore.
Yeah.
That if someone doesn't use it, it's going in the trash.
Totally, and like a 15-year-old would not know what that is.
No,
Today.
I have a VHS collection
Yeah.
that I love to death. It's like the centerpiece of my living room, and one of the things that makes it so cool to have is that I can actually watch the movies and like in like the quality that they would have come out with too. And I love it. And without that VHS player, it would be like collecting for the sake of collecting, which is fine for others, not good for me.
Yeah.
I would just buy everything, I feel like. But it's been so nice to be able to watch the movies that like I'll buy at like Amoeba Music Store or like Whammy. I feel like no one talks about Whammy. It's the best store in LA. It's like they basically only sell VHS tapes.
Wow.
It's
And
best.
it's still around. That's really cool.
And still around and still like thriving, it seems. I love it.
So there's more people out there that are like that. You gotta
Yes,
find
there's
those.
like a whole community of them on Instagram.
Oh, I love
Go
it.
find them.
Yeah. Cool answer. That is really cool. I grew up with the VHS player, or whatever we call it now, but I haven't seen one in a long, long time. Yeah. Okay, the next one should be pretty easy, I think. Do you prefer sunrise or sunset at the beach?
Definitely sunset. LA has some of the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen, specifically at Point Doom in Malibu. But also, I went one day. I was on set and we went to Magic Mountain, and the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my entire life. It was crazy. Sunset for sure.
Yeah, nice. Same. And it's partially because I'm not a morning person, so I will
That
always
also
gladly
helps.
catch a sunset.
That also helps.
Yeah. Lastly, what is the best way for you to unwind after a long day of saving the planet?
I feel like it's too easy to say sit down and watch a movie, but I
Which is
honestly
totally okay.
Yeah, I honestly think it's actually just going to the movies, specifically going to like, I think saying vintage theater is not the right way to say this, but like one of the one of the classic theaters. Like I love going to the Los Feliz 3. I think it's the 3. Yeah, I think it's the 3. The Los Feliz 3 in Los Feliz. One of my favorite theaters. It's actually where is the first like vintage theater I went to, and I saw Past Lives, which changed my life to say the least. And it's just sitting in a movie, being able to just like fully escape.
I love that. Yeah, I know. I've been going to the movies a lot more recently, the like last year, I'd say, than I have, even though been working in the film industry for like years, and I like would not have time to go watch movies or and so I like that answer a lot because I can relate. It's just so like nice to be able to just go watch a movie and just like be in the presence of others and you feel the energy and but I love that you have a favorite theater, and so those that are tuning in from LA, it's a good recommendation.
Yeah, go to Los Feliz 3, and then I'm hoping to go to the Egyptian soon because I've heard that one's pretty cool.
Well, okay, so that wraps up our green take segment. So thank you for participating in that. I think it's I just started recently doing it, so I haven't done it in a lot of interviews, but I always find it to be such a fun way to just get to know the person outside of work. I'm trying to be better at because I personally don't want to just be associated with my job title, and so it's okay, when I interview people, I'm trying to be more mindful of let's separate it. And
Yeah.
so thank you for, those cool, amazing answers.
Of course.
And also just being on the show and sharing your time and your energy with me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, I'm so excited to see how the podcast goes and how you continue to grow.
Thank you.
And evolve.
Likewise.
Thank you.
How can people find you if they want to connect with you or learn more about Sustainably Managed?
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me personally, LinkedIn, pretty much everywhere on Sustainably Miranda. Also, if you're on Letterboxd, also find me at Miranda Jackson. I need more Letterboxd friends. Love a Letterboxd. But for Sustainably Managed, we're on Instagram at Sustainably Managed, TikTok, and then we're like a company on LinkedIn. And those are like the main places you can find us. And then if you are ever interested in like connecting with us, in our link tree, we have various ways of connecting with us.
Amazing. Well, thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
Yay!